My name is Autumn, 28 years old, and I'm standing alone at a gas station in the middle of the Arizona desert, watching my mother's SUV disappear into the shimmering heat. She just deliberately abandoned me here as some kind of twisted lesson. My phone buzzes with her text, "Let's see if she can survive without Mommy." But instead of panic, I'm actually smiling. Because what my mother Patricia doesn't know is that she just handed me the exact opportunity I've been waiting for. Before I tell you how this abandonment became my liberation, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Please hit that like button and subscribe to hear how my mother's cruel joke turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. The road to that desert gas station started long before we ever left Sacramento. My mother Patricia, 55 years old and bitter as unsweetened coffee, had controlled every aspect of my life since my father died in a car accident when I was 10. That tragedy had transformed her from a loving parent into someone I barely recognized, someone who seemed to believe that if she could just control everything about me, she could prevent any more loss from entering our lives. Our house in Sacramento was less a home and more a carefully monitored prison. Every door had to remain open, every phone call happened on speaker, every friend required a full background check that would make the FBI jealous. My younger brother Jason, now 25, and working as a corporate lawyer, had somehow escaped this suffocating oversight. He was the golden child who could do no wrong, whose law degree hung in our living room like a shrine, while my marketing degree collected dust in a drawer because Mother deemed it unnecessary for me to use. I had graduated from UC Davis with honors 4 years ago, a bachelor's degree in marketing, with a minor in digital design. Companies had recruited me. Startups wanted me. Established firms sent offers. But Patricia had sabotaged every single opportunity with a precision that would have been impressive if it wasn't destroying my life. She would call my potential employers pretending to be me, canceling interviews with elaborate excuses. She intercepted mail containing job offers, shredding them before I ever saw them. When I finally caught on and started using a P.O. box, she convinced the postal worker who went to her church to give her access. The financial control was even more suffocating. Despite being 28 years old, I had no access to my own documents. My birth certificate, Social Security card, even my passport were locked in Mother's safe, and she guarded that combination like nuclear launch codes. She had convinced me years ago to add her to my bank account for emergencies, then gradually took over completely. I received an allowance $40 a week in cash like I was still in middle school. Any purchase over $10 required her written approval. The isolation extended beyond finances. Friends from college gradually stopped calling after Patricia answered my phone enough times interrogating them about their intentions. Dating was impossible. The one relationship I'd managed to maintain for 6 months ended when Mother showed up at his apartment at midnight, claiming I was having a mental health crisis and needed immediate intervention. She had called the police, telling them I was suicidal. The humiliation of explaining to officers that I was fine, just trying to have dinner with my boyfriend, while my mother stood there with fake tears streaming down her face, was something I would never forget. Jason watched all of this from his pedestal, occasionally making weak protestations that Mother should ease up, but never actually standing up for me. He had his own apartment in Midtown Sacramento, came and went as he pleased, and seemed to view my situation as unfortunate, but not his problem. During family dinners, he would sit there scrolling through his phone while Mother lectured me about my failures, my inability to be independent, my lack of ambition, all while actively preventing me from having any of those things. The Phoenix trip had been Jason's idea originally. He had a legal conference, something about corporate tax law, that sounded as exciting as watching paint dry. But Mother had decided to turn it into a family road trip, declaring that we needed bonding time. The irony of bonding with people who either controlled or ignored me was not lost on me, but arguing with Patricia was like arguing with a brick wall that could ground you and take away your phone. The 12-hour drive from Sacramento to Phoenix was mapped out with military precision. Mother had printed directions despite having GPS-scheduled bathroom breaks every 2 hours, and packed enough food for a small army despite planning to stop for meals. I had tried to explain that I had an important video interview scheduled with a San Francisco marketing firm, but she had dismissed it as another one of my fantasies about escaping. What she didn't know was that I had been slowly building an online portfolio for 2 years, working on freelance projects during the few hours she slept using the library's computers, creating a digital presence she knew nothing about. The San Francisco firm had found me through my work, not through traditional applications she could sabotage. The interview was my chance at freedom, and she was dragging me away from it. We left Sacramento at 5 in the morning on a Tuesday. Mother drove her precious Lexus SUV, the one she washed every Saturday, and wouldn't let me drive despite my valid license. Jason sat in the passenger seat, his position of privilege, while I was relegated to the back like a child. The first 3 hours passed in relative silence, just the sound of Mother's classical music, and Jason typing on his laptop, working on some brief that apparently couldn't wait. Around Bakersfield, things started getting strange. Mother kept looking at Jason and giggling a sound I hadn't heard from her in years. They would exchange glances in the rearview mirror, and Jason would smirk and shake his head. When I asked what was funny, Mother just said I wouldn't understand the joke. The unease started then, a creeping feeling that something was being planned, and I was the punchline. We stopped for lunch in Barstow, a forgettable town whose main claim to fame seemed to be being halfway between everywhere. Mother insisted we eat at a specific diner, one she had researched extensively online. She ordered for me as usual, getting me a salad while she and Jason enjoyed burgers. When I tried to add fries to my order, she loudly told the waitress that I was watching my weight, even though I wasn't. The humiliation was routine by now, but it still stung. During lunch, she kept checking her phone and smiling. She took pictures of everything, the food, the restaurant, even me eating my pathetic salad. "For memories," she said, though she never cared about memories before. Jason excused himself to make a call, and I heard him say something about tomorrow morning and all set, before he noticed me listening and walked further away. Back in the car, Mother's mood was almost manic. She talked constantly about independence, about how her generation had to figure things out without Google or cell phones, about how young people today were soft and couldn't survive real challenges. Jason agreed with everything, adding his own commentary about participation trophy culture and helicopter parenting, which was rich considering our mother was the helicopter parent supreme. The sunset painted the desert in shades of orange and purple as we crossed into Arizona. We stopped for the night in Kingman, a small city that seemed to exist solely for travelers like us. The motel Mother had booked had 2 rooms, one for her and one supposedly for Jason and me to share. But Jason immediately claimed he needed his own space for conference prep, so Mother upgraded him while I got the pull-out couch in her room, continuing the pattern of my lesser status. That night, as Mother snored in the queen bed, I lay awake on the lumpy pull-out and checked my email on my phone, the one thing she hadn't figured out how to completely control. The San Francisco company had sent another message asking if I could reschedule the interview for Thursday. They seemed genuinely interested in my portfolio. I replied that I would try, not knowing how prophetic that word try would become. The next morning started early 4:30 a.m. because Mother wanted to beat traffic that didn't exist in the middle of the desert. She was practically vibrating with excitement, which should have been my first real warning. Patricia didn't get excited about anything except Jason's achievements and finding new ways to control my life. But she was humming, actually humming, as she packed our bags into the car. Jason seemed nervous, fidgeting with his phone and avoiding eye contact with me. When I asked if he was worried about his conference presentation, he just muttered something about hoping everything would work out for the best. The words felt weighted with meaning I couldn't decipher. About 2 hours into the drive in the absolute middle of nowhere, Arizona, Mother announced she needed gas. The gauge showed more than half a tank, but she insisted we couldn't risk it. The gas station that appeared like a mirage in the desert was old, the kind with just 2 pumps and a small convenience store that probably hadn't been renovated since the 80s. "I need to use the restroom," I announced, grabbing my small backpack that contained my phone, a water bottle, and a few snacks. "Leave your bag," Mother said sharply. "You don't need it for the bathroom." "I want to buy something from the store," I protested. "With what money you spent your allowance already," she said, even though we both knew I had $47 carefully saved in my wallet. I left the backpack on the seat, another small surrender in a lifetime of them, and walked to the dingy bathroom behind the building. The mirror inside was cracked, reflecting my face in fragments, which felt appropriate for how fractured my life had become. When I walked back around the building 5 minutes later, the Lexus was gone. At first, my brain couldn't process what I was seeing, or rather, what I wasn't seeing. The parking spot where our SUV had been was empty, except for my backpack sitting on the asphalt, like abandoned luggage at an airport. I stood there for a full 30 seconds, certain that I was somehow looking in the wrong place, that the car had to be there, because mothers didn't just leave their daughters in the middle of the desert. But Patricia wasn't just any mother, and as I walked over to my backpack with legs that felt like they were moving through quicksand, my phone started buzzing with text messages. The first one made everything crystal clear. "Let's see if she can survive without Mommy. You claim you want independence so badly, here's your chance to prove it." The second text was even worse. "You've been nothing but ungrateful for everything I've done for you. Maybe 3 days alone will teach you to appreciate what you have. We'll be back Friday afternoon. If you apologize properly and promise to stop with your foolish dreams of leaving." The third message came from Jason. "Mom's idea, not mine. But maybe she has a point. You do need to grow up. See you in 3 days." I stood there in the blazing morning sun, already feeling the heat rising from the pavement, holding my phone like it might suddenly reveal this was all a joke. But the messages kept coming, photos of them driving away laughing, a video of Mother saying, "She always claimed she could take care of herself, let's see if that's true." The casual cruelty of it, the premeditation, the fact that my own brother was complicit, should have destroyed me. Instead, something else happened. Standing in that gas station parking lot, abandoned like trash on the side of the road, I felt something I hadn't felt in 18 years. I felt free. For the first time since my father died, Patricia wasn't watching me, controlling me, suffocating me. She thought she was punishing me, but she had just accidentally given me the keys to my own prison. An older man, probably in his 60s, emerged from the gas station building. He wore a name tag that said Carl and had the weathered face of someone who'd spent a lifetime in the desert. "Miss, are you all right? I saw what just happened. That woman and young man just left you here." "I'm fine," I said, surprised to find that I meant it. "Actually, Carl, I'm better than fine. Do you have a phone I could use?" "Not to call them," I added quickly, seeing his concerned expression. "I need to call someone else entirely." Carl led me inside the small store, which was blessedly air-conditioned, even if it smelled like old coffee and motor oil. He pointed to an ancient landline behind the counter. "Use it as long as you need." "You want me to call the police? What that woman did leaving you here, that's got to be illegal." I considered it for a moment. I could call the police, report Patricia for abandonment, create a scene that would embarrass her among her church friends and book club members. But that would just bring her back here faster, full of rage, and ready to make my life even worse. No, I had a better idea. "Carl, do you get much traffic through here? Anyone heading toward Phoenix?" He scratched his gray stubble thoughtfully. "Maria should be through in about an hour. She drives a delivery truck, real nice lady. Makes the run from Vegas to Phoenix twice a week. She'd probably give you a ride if you need one." Phoenix, where Jason's conference was, but more importantly, where opportunities existed that Patricia couldn't sabotage if she didn't know about them. I remembered the email from the San Francisco marketing firm. They had mentioned they also had a satellite office in Phoenix. It was a long shot, but I had nothing to lose anymore. "That would be perfect," I said. "Carl, can I ask you something? Why are you being so nice to me? You don't even know me." He gave me a sad smile. "Had a daughter once. About your age when she passed. Cancer. She had a controlling ex-husband who tried to keep her from getting treatment at the good hospital because it was too far from him. I helped her escape him, get to MD Anderson in Houston. She got 2 more good years because of it. I can recognize that look in someone's eyes when they're finally breaking free from someone who's supposed to love them but doesn't know how." While we waited for Maria, Carl let me use his old desktop computer in the back office. I logged into my email and sent a message to Startup Marketing, the San Francisco firm. I explained that I was unexpectedly in Phoenix, that I'd had a family emergency, but could do an in-person interview at their Phoenix office if they were still interested. I kept it professional, not mentioning that the emergency was being abandoned by my mother as a punishment. Within 15 minutes, I had a response from Sarah Williams, the CEO herself. "Autumn, What perfect timing, I'm actually in our Phoenix office this week. Can you come by tomorrow at 2 p.m.? The portfolio you've built is exactly what we're looking for. Address attached. Looking forward to meeting you in person. I stared at the screen, reading the message 3 times to make sure it was real. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., I had an interview for a real job with a real company that my mother knew nothing about. I quickly memorized the address before clearing the browser history, a habit born from years of covering my tracks. Maria arrived exactly when Carl said she would, a sturdy woman in her mid-40s with kind eyes and arms strong from years of loading trucks. She took one look at me sitting on the bench outside with my pathetic backpack and seemed to understand the situation immediately. "Carl called me on the CB," she said in slightly accented English. "Said you needed a ride to Phoenix. Someone dump you here." "My mother," I said, seeing no point in lying. She thought it would teach me a lesson about independence. Maria muttered something in Spanish that I was pretty sure wasn't complimentary to Patricia. "Come on, mija. I've got air conditioning and cold water. Phoenix is 4 hours away, plenty of time for you to tell me the whole story if you want, or we can just listen to music. Your choice." I climbed into the massive truck, settling into the passenger seat that was worn but comfortable. Maria handed me a bottle of water from her cooler and started the engine. As we pulled away from the gas station, I looked back once at the spot where my mother had abandoned me. It already felt like something that had happened to someone else, someone weaker, someone who didn't know her own strength. "So," Maria said as we merged onto the highway, "you want to talk about it, or you want to hear about the time my mother tried to lock me in a convent? She tried to lock you in a convent. Oh yes, she thought I was too wild, too independent. Sound familiar? But you know what I learned? Sometimes the worst things people do to us become the best things that happen for us. My mother sending me to that convent led me to meet Sister Catherine, who taught me to read and write in English, helped me get my commercial driving license. Now I own 3 trucks and employ 6 drivers. My mother still thinks I'm a failure because I'm not married with 10 babies, but I sleep well at night in my paid-off house. We talked for the entire drive, Maria sharing stories of her own controlling family and how she'd broken free, built a business, created a life on her own terms. She offered to let me stay with her sister Rosa in Phoenix, who ran a small bakery and had a spare room she rented out sometimes. "Rosa's good people," Maria assured me. "She understands what it's like to start over with nothing. Her husband was a piece of work, took everything in the divorce except her grandmother's recipe book. Now she's got the best Mexican bakery in South Phoenix. You'll like her." As the desert gave way to the outskirts of Phoenix, my phone buzzed with more messages from Patricia. The tone had shifted from smug to slightly concerned. "Autumn, this lesson has gone on long enough. Tell me where you are." Then, "This is ridiculous. Stop being dramatic." And finally, "Answer your phone right now." I turned off my phone completely. For the first time in my adult life, I was unreachable, untrackable, unfindable. The sensation was intoxicating. Rosa's house sat on the quiet street in South Phoenix, painted bright yellow with purple trim that should have looked garish, but somehow worked perfectly. The small front yard overflowed with desert plants and whimsical metal sculptures, and wind chimes sang softly in the afternoon breeze. Maria had called ahead, and Rosa was waiting on the porch, a woman in her early 50s with Maria's kind eyes, but a softer-billed flower still dusting her apron. "So you're the girl whose mother is an idiot," Rosa said by way of greeting, pulling me into a hug that smelled like cinnamon and vanilla. "Come inside. You look like you need food and a shower, and maybe a shot of tequila, though not necessarily in that order." The inside of Rosa's house was organized chaos, every surface covered with either baking supplies or vibrant Mexican art. She led me to a small room at the back, clean and simple, with a single bed, a dresser, and a window that looked out onto an alley where a mural of Frida Kahlo watched over the garbage bins. "The shower's down the hall," Rosa said, handing me a towel that was worn but soft. "Dinner's at 6. We're having pozole because it cures everything, including bad mothers. Maria will join us after her last delivery." I stood in that little room holding the towel and started to cry for the first time since seeing the empty parking space. Not tears of sadness or fear, but relief. These strangers were showing me more genuine kindness in 1 hour than my mother had shown me in years. After showering off the desert dust and changing into the only other outfit in my backpack, I found Rosa in the kitchen, a space that was clearly the heart of the home. Commercial-grade equipment mixed with home cooking tools, and the smell of simmering hominy and pork filled the air. "You want to help, or you want to sit?" Rosa asked, not looking up from the onion she was dicing with professional precision. "I want to help," I said, realizing I meant it. "I haven't been allowed to cook in years. My mother said I was too messy." Rosa snorted. "Cooking is supposed to be messy. Life is supposed to be messy. Here, dice these radishes, thin like coins." We worked in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythm of chopping and stirring oddly soothing. Finally, Rosa asked, "So what's your plan? Maria said you have a job interview tomorrow." "Startup marketing at 2 p.m., I confirmed. "If I get it, I'll figure out the rest. If I don't, well, I'll figure that out too." "You need interview clothes. My daughter Letitia is about your size. She's away at ASU but left half her closet here." I started to protest the automatic response of someone taught not to accept help, but Rosa waved her knife at me. "Don't insult me by refusing. You think I don't know what it's like to have nothing but the clothes on your back? When I left my husband, I had one suitcase and $17. My neighbor gave me a dress for my first job interview at a bakery. Now I own my own bakery, and that neighbor's daughter works for me. Life is a circle, mija. Today I help you, tomorrow you help someone else." Maria arrived as promised, along with two of her drivers, Carlos and Diego. Rosa's tiny dining room barely fit everyone, but the crowdedness felt warm rather than suffocating. They told stories switching between English and Spanish, including me, even when I couldn't follow all the words. Nobody asked why my mother had abandoned me, they just accepted that she had, and that it was her loss. After dinner, Maria helped me prepare for the interview. She had a surprising knowledge of corporate America from dealing with shipping contracts. "You have to sell yourself without seeming desperate," she advised. "They need to think they're lucky to get you, not that you're lucky to get them." Rosa disappeared and came back with an armload of clothes. "Letitia's interview wardrobe," she announced, laying out several options on the bed. There was a perfect navy blazer professional, but not stuffy, a cream blouse that looked expensive, and black pants that fit like they were tailored for me. Even a pair of low heels that were only half a size too big, nothing some tissue in the toes wouldn't fix. "Now your resume," Maria said, all business. "You have it online." I pulled up my digital portfolio on Rosa's ancient laptop, showing them the campaigns I'd designed in secret, the social media strategies I'd developed for fictional companies, just to keep my skills sharp, the website I'd built for a local nonprofit using the library's computers after midnight. "This is impressive," Maria said, and I could tell she meant it. "Why haven't you been working?" "My mother. She sabotaged every opportunity. Called employers pretending to be me, intercepted offer letters, showed up at interviews claiming I was having mental health emergencies." Rosa crossed herself. "That's not a mother, that's a demon. My own mother was difficult, but she never tried to destroy my future." We stayed up until midnight strategizing for the interview. Rosa would drive me there in her delivery van. Maria gave me $200 in cash, refusing to hear any protests about paying her back. Carlos, who turned out to have a cousin in HR at a Phoenix tech company, made a call to get insider information about startup marketing's culture and what they looked for in employees. "They value innovation and independence," he reported after a 15-minute conversation. The CEO, Sarah Williams, started the company after her previous employer told her that her ideas were too risky. She likes people who think differently. Perfect. I'd been thinking differently my entire life, even if I'd been forced to hide it. That night, I lay in the narrow bed listening to the unfamiliar sounds of South Phoenix sirens and music and voices speaking languages I didn't recognize. My phone still turned off, sat on the dresser like a dead thing. I knew I should probably check it, let Patricia know I was alive, if only to avoid a missing person report, but I couldn't bring myself to break this spell of freedom. The next morning, Rosa woke me with coffee and fresh pastries from her bakery. "Eat," she commanded. "You can't conquer the corporate world on an empty stomach." She had also been busy in other ways. On the bed lay the interview outfit pressed and perfect along with a portfolio folder she'd somehow acquired. "My nephew works at Office Max," she explained. "He opened early just for this." The kindness of strangers was overwhelming. These people who owed me nothing were doing everything to help me succeed. It was the opposite of my family who owed me love, but gave me control and criticism instead. I spent the morning researching startup marketing on Rose's laptop. They had 30 employees, 3 major clients, and were growing rapidly. Their Instagram, which I could manage better in my sleep, had decent content, but no coherent strategy. Their website was functional, but not optimized for SEO. I made notes, prepared ideas, turned my desperation into preparation. At 1 p.m., Rosa drove me to the address in her delivery van that smelled like fresh bread and had Rosa's Bakery authentic Mexican pastries painted on the side. She pulled up in front of a modern building in the Phoenix Arts District, all glass and steel among the older structures. "You've got this," she said firmly, "and if they don't hire you, they're idiots, and we'll find you something better." The lobby was intimidating, all white marble and abstract art, but I walked in like I belonged there. The receptionist, a young man with purple hair and a genuine smile, directed me to the 3rd floor. The elevator ride felt both endless and too quick, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. The startup marketing office was nothing like the sterile lobby. It was open concept, full of plants and natural light, with people working at standing desks and bean bags, and one person literally lying on the floor with their laptop balanced on their stomach. This was creative chaos, my natural habitat. Sarah Williams herself came to greet me, not an assistant or HR person, but the CEO. She was younger than I expected, maybe 38, with natural silver streaks in her black hair that she obviously hadn't bothered to dye. Her handshake was firm, her smile genuine. "Autumn, I'm so glad you could make it. Your portfolio is incredible. Where have you been hiding?" "Sacramento," I said, deciding honesty was my best strategy, and hiding is actually the perfect word for it. She led me to a conference room with windows overlooking the city, gestured for me to sit, and said something that changed everything. "Before we start, I want you to know that I've already decided to offer you a position. This interview is just to figure out which position and what you need from us to succeed." I stared at Sarah Williams, certain I had misheard. "You're offering me a job already, but you haven't even interviewed me yet." She smiled and pulled out a tablet, swiping through images I recognized as my portfolio. "Autumn, this campaign you designed for the hypothetical eco-friendly fashion brand. We pitched almost the exact same concept to a client last month, but yours is better. This social media strategy for the nonprofit. It's more comprehensive than what our senior strategist produced. You've been creating master-level work in what I'm assuming were less than ideal conditions. So yes, I'm offering you a job. The question is whether you'll accept it." My throat felt tight with emotions I couldn't name. "What position?" "Digital marketing manager, $85,000 to start, full benefits. And here's the part I think you'll appreciate. We have a corporate apartment that's available for new employees for their first month while they get settled. It's furnished walking distance from here and included in your relocation package." "But I'm not relocating," I said, then realized how that sounded. "I mean, I'm from Sacramento, but I'm already here." Sarah leaned forward, her expression serious but kind. "Autumn, I've been in this business long enough to recognize talent, and also to recognize when someone is escaping something. I started this company after my previous employer tried to blackball me in the industry for refusing to sleep with him. I know what it's like to have to rebuild from nothing. So let me be more clear. The job is yours if you want it. The apartment is yours for as long as you need it, not just a month. And if there's anything else you need to make this work, just ask." The tears came then, unstoppable. Sarah pushed a box of tissues across the table and waited patiently while I pulled myself together. "I'm sorry," I gasped. "It's just that my mother abandoned me at a gas station yesterday as some kind of punishment, and I thought my life was over, but instead it might be beginning, and I don't know how to process that." "Your mother abandoned you." Sarah's voice was carefully controlled, but I could see anger flashing in her eyes. "As in literally left you." I told her everything. The control, the sabotage, the abandonment meant to break me. Sarah listened without interrupting her expression, growing more thunderous with each detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow," I suggested hopefully. "Perfect. Let's get your paperwork started. Do you have your documents? License, Social Security card?" My heart sank. My mother has them. All of them. She keeps them locked in a safe. Sarah picked up her phone. Marcus, can you come to conference room 3 and bring Anna with you? She hung up and turned back to me. Marcus is our operations manager. Anna is our legal consultant who happens to specialize in family law. We're going to solve this problem today. Marcus turned out to be a tall black man with a warm smile and the kind of organized energy that suggested he could run a small country if needed. Anna was a tiny woman who looked like she could be a kindergarten teacher until you saw her eyes sharp as surgical instruments. Sarah explained the situation succinctly, and both immediately went into problem-solving mode. First things first, Anna said, pulling out her phone. Abandonment of an adult by a caregiver who has financial control can be considered a form of abuse. We can file for emergency documentation replacement based on unsafe family situation. I have a contact at the courthouse who can expedite. I'll set up your corporate email and get it to issue you a laptop today so you can start familiarizing yourself with our systems, Marcus added. We'll list the apartment as your address for all employment documents. Also, Sarah interjected, we're going to advance you $3,000 from your signing bonus today. Open a new bank account that your mother has no access to. I can't accept all this. I started to protest, but Sarah cut me off. You're not accepting charity. You're accepting support that allows you to become a valuable employee for us. Your portfolio shows me you're worth 10 times what we're investing. This is a business decision, not a personal favor. They moved with an efficiency that was stunning. Within 2 hours, I had a temporary paper license from the DMV, an appointment at social services for emergency documentation, a bank account at a credit union down the street with $3,000 in it, and keys to a furnished apartment 6 blocks away. Marcus walked me to the apartment, a 1-bedroom on the 4th floor of a converted warehouse. It was small, but perfect, with exposed brick walls, large windows, and a kitchen that actually belonged to me, at least temporarily. The furniture's basic but comfortable, he said, showing me around. There's a grocery store on the corner, a laundromat in the basement, and the best Thai food in Phoenix 1 block over. My number's in your phone if you need anything, and I mean anything. Even if it's just someone to talk to at 2 a.m. because everything feels surreal. After he left, I stood in the middle of my new apartment, my temporary home that was more mine than any space had been in years. Then I remembered my phone. I'd left it off for over 24 hours. Time to face whatever storm was waiting. I turned it on to find 43 missed calls from Patricia, 20 from Jason, and so many text messages, the phone froze temporarily trying to load them all. The progression was fascinating in its predictability. Patricia had gone from smug satisfaction to annoyance to concern to rage to panic. The latest messages sent just an hour ago were threatening to call the police, the FBI, the National Guard. I composed a simple text to both of them. I'm safe. I have a job and a place to live. Do not come looking for me. If you report me missing, I will tell the police exactly what you did, and Carl from the gas station has security footage of you abandoning me. I need space. Respect that or face the consequences. Then I turned the phone off again. They could stew in their own panic for a while. That evening, Rosa and Maria showed up at my apartment with what they called necessities sheets, towels, basic dishes, and enough food to stock my refrigerator. Carlos and Diego carried up a small TV someone's cousin wasn't using. Even Carl had sent something with Maria an envelope with $200 and a note that said, "For whatever you need, pay it forward someday." This is too much, I kept saying, but they wouldn't hear it. Family helps family, Rosa said firmly, and your family now. We ate takeout Thai food sitting on the floor of my new apartment, using my new mismatched dishes, watching the sunset through my windows turn the Phoenix sky into a masterpiece of pink and gold. Tomorrow I would start my new job. Tomorrow I would begin building my new life. But tonight I sat with my chosen family people who had known me for exactly 2 days, but had shown me more genuine care than my blood relatives had in years. Around 9 p.m. Maria's phone rang. She answered in Spanish, then her expression darkened. She had a rapid conversation I couldn't follow, then hung up. That was my cousin in Sacramento. She works at the grocery store near your mother's house. Your mother came in there today crying and telling everyone her daughter had been kidnapped in Arizona. She's playing the victim, talking about how she's flying to Phoenix tomorrow to search for you." My stomach dropped. Of course Patricia would come here. Of course she would try to drag me back. Of course she would paint herself as the worried mother rather than the abusive controller who had literally abandoned me. "She doesn't know where I am," I said, trying to convince myself. "Phoenix is huge." "But she knows about Jason's conference," Rosa pointed out. "She'll go there first." Jason's conference. At the Phoenix Convention Center, where he was supposed to be for 3 more days, where Patricia would definitely go to establish her base of operations for her dramatic rescue mission. Anna, the lawyer, had given me her card. I called her immediately, explaining the situation. "Come to my office first thing tomorrow morning," she said. "We're going to file a restraining order. Abandonment followed by stalking is a clear pattern of abuse. We'll have it in place before she can find you." The next morning came too quickly and not fast enough. I dressed in my second borrowed interview outfit, this one more casual but still professional right for a first day at a creative company. The face in the mirror looked different, somehow older maybe, or just finally awake after years of sleepwalking through life. Anna's office was in a small building downtown, squeezed between a bail bondsman and a psychic reader, which seemed ironically appropriate. She had everything prepared, documents printed, evidence organized. The security footage Carl had sent from the gas station was damning, clearly showing Patricia and Jason driving away while I was in the bathroom, my abandoned backpack visible on the ground. "This is clear-cut abandonment," Anna said, adding the footage to the file. "The fact that she's now coming to find you against your expressed wishes constitutes harassment. We have enough for an emergency protective order." We were at the courthouse when my phone rang from an unknown Phoenix number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Autumn," Jason's voice tight with panic. "Mom's here. She's at my hotel, completely hysterical. She's threatening to hire a private investigator, call your work, go to every apartment complex in Phoenix. You need to come talk to her." "No," I said simply. "I don't need to do anything except live my life." "She's going to make a scene at my conference. This could affect my career." I almost laughed at the irony. "Like she's affected mine for years. That sounds like your problem to solve, Jason." "Where are you? At least tell me you're okay." "I'm more than okay. I'm free. And if either of you come near me, you'll be served with a restraining order. I'm done, Jason. Tell her that. I'm done being controlled, done being diminished, done being the family failure. I have a job that pays more than yours, by the way. Enjoy your conference." I hung up and blocked the number. Anna smiled approvingly. The restraining order was granted within 2 hours emergency status due to the clear evidence of abandonment and harassment. It prohibited Patricia and Jason from coming within 500 feet of me, my workplace, or my residence. Anna had a process server ready to go to Jason's hotel immediately. "They'll be served within the hour," she assured me, "and if they violate it, they'll be arrested." I made it to startup marketing by noon, legally protected and ready to start my new life. Sarah had assembled a small welcome committee complete with a banner that said, "Welcome Autumn," and a desk already set up with my nameplate. It should have felt presumptuous since I'd only been hired yesterday, but instead it felt like coming home. Marcus handed me a laptop top of the line preloaded with all the software I'd need. "Your email's already set up. You're in all the relevant Slack channels, and your first assignment's in your inbox. But first lunch with the team, so everyone can get to know you." The team was 12 people of various ages and backgrounds, all creative, all welcoming, all treating me like I'd always belonged there. Nobody asked why I'd moved to Phoenix so suddenly or where my family was. They talked about projects and clients and the office dog that came in on Fridays. My first assignment was to develop a social media strategy for a local sustainable furniture company, the kind of project I dreamed about working on using my skills for something that mattered. I dove in, losing myself in the work, and when I looked up, it was already 6 p.m. "Don't stay too late on your first day," Sarah said, stopping by my desk. "Though I appreciate the enthusiasm. How are you settling in?" "It feels surreal," I admitted, "like I'm going to wake up and be back in Sacramento being told I'm not good enough." "Imposter syndrome is real, but you've earned this. Your mother's voice in your head will fade eventually. It just takes time and distance." That evening, I walked home to my apartment, my keys in my pocket, my laptop bag over my shoulder, feeling like an actual adult for the first time. On the way, I stopped at the grocery store and bought ingredients for dinner, whatever I wanted, without having to justify my choices to anyone. I was cooking pasta with garlic and olive oil, simple, but mine, when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Jason. New number since you blocked me. We've been served with the restraining order. Mom is beyond furious. She's saying she's going to contest it, that you're mentally unstable, that she's going to have you committed. I'm trying to calm her down, but you know how she is. Be careful." I didn't respond. Let Patricia rage. Let her threaten. She was 1,500 miles away and legally prohibited from coming near me. Her control was broken, and all she had left were empty threats. But I should have known Patricia wouldn't give up that easily. 3 days into my new job, as I was presenting my social media strategy to the team, the receptionist interrupted. "Autumn, there's someone in the lobby claiming to be your mother. She says it's a medical emergency." My blood froze. Sarah immediately stood up. "Call the police. She's violating a restraining order." Then to me, "You don't have to see her. You don't have to deal with this." But I wanted to. I wanted Patricia to see me in my element, confident and successful, and beyond her reach. "I'll go down, but only with witnesses." Sarah, Marcus, and Anna, who happened to be in the office for another matter, accompanied me to the lobby. There stood Patricia, looking haggard and older than I'd ever seen her, with Jason beside her, clearly uncomfortable. "Autumn?" She started toward me, but the security guard stepped between us. "Ma'am, you need to stay back. The police are on their way." "This is insane," Patricia shrieked. "I'm her mother. She's clearly having a mental breakdown. Look at her. She's abandoned her family. She's living some fantasy life. She needs help." "Actually," Sarah said coolly, "she's one of the most mentally stable people I've ever hired. Talented, professional, and thriving. You, on the other hand, abandoned her at a gas station and are now stalking her. Who exactly needs help here?" Patricia turned her venom on Sarah. "You don't know her. She's manipulative, a liar. She's probably conned you into hiring her." Anna stepped forward. "Ma'am, I'm a lawyer, and I advise you to stop talking. You're violating a restraining order, which is a criminal offense. Anything you say can be used against you." The police arrived then, 2 officers who looked tired, but took the situation seriously. They reviewed the restraining order, confirmed Patricia and Jason were in violation, and prepared to arrest them. "Wait," I said, surprising everyone, including myself. "I want to say something first." The officers nodded, and I stepped forward, though still maintaining the required distance. "Mother, you thought abandoning me would teach me a lesson, and it did. It taught me that I don't need you. It taught me that strangers can be kinder than family. It taught me that I'm stronger than you ever let me believe. You tried to break me, but instead you freed me. So thank you for that. Now please leave and never contact me again. Jason, you have 5 minutes to decide whether you're going with her or finally standing up to her. Either way, we're done." Jason looked between Patricia and me, his face a study in conflict. Then, for the first time in his life, he stepped away from our mother. "I'm sorry, Autumn, for everything. Mom, you need help. Professional help. This isn't normal or okay." He turned to the officers. "I'll leave immediately and won't violate the order again, but she might need a psychiatric evaluation." Patricia's face went from red to purple. "You ungrateful brats. After everything I've done for you, I sacrificed everything." "No," I said quietly. "You sacrificed us. For your need to control, for your fear, for your inability to see us as separate people. But we're done being your sacrifices." The officers led Patricia away, still ranting about lawsuits and parental rights and mental health holds. Jason followed at a distance, texting me from the parking lot. "I'll get her help, real help. Maybe someday we can talk, but I understand if that day never comes." The immediate aftermath of Patricia's arrest was both quieter and louder than I expected. Quiet in my daily life, where I continued going to work, developing campaigns, and slowly decorating my apartment with thrift store finds and Rosa's homemade art. Louder in the legal sphere, where Patricia tried everything to regain control. She hired 3 different lawyers, each dropping her case when they learned the full story. She attempted to file for conservatorship, claiming I was mentally incompetent, which was laughed out of court when I provided evidence of my stable employment and living situation. She tried to access my old bank accounts, only to find I'd already removed my small savings and closed them. She even contacted my employer directly, sending a rambling email about my supposed mental illness, which Sarah forwarded to the police as evidence of continued harassment. But while Patricia spiraled in Sacramento, I thrived in Phoenix. My sustainable furniture campaign went viral, generating a 40% increase in sales for the client. Sarah promoted me after just 1 month, adding another $10,000 to my salary and giving me my own team of 3 junior marketers to mentor. The corporate apartment became permanently mine when the company decided to lease it for employee housing, and I was the perfect tenant. Maria and Rosa became my constant companions, Sunday dinners at Rosa's house becoming a tradition. Carl drove down from the gas station once a month, checking on me like the father I wished I'd been able to keep. Even Anna became a friend rather than just a lawyer, our coffee dates evolving from legal strategy to life philosophy. Marcus and I grew closer too, our work collaboration becoming lunch dates, then dinner dates, then something more. He was patient and kind, understanding that trust came hard for me, never pushing, always supporting. When I finally told him the full story of my childhood, he held me while I cried, then said simply, "You survived all that and still became this amazing. Imagine what you'll become with actual support." 3 months after the abandonment, I received a package at work. No return address, but I recognized Jason's handwriting. Inside was a manila envelope full of documents I thought I'd never see again. My birth certificate, social security card, passport, even my baby photos and childhood artwork Patricia had kept locked away. A note was attached. "Mom's in a facility getting help. It was court-ordered after she had a breakdown at her church and attacked someone she thought was hiding you. I've been seeing a therapist too, trying to understand how we got here. I found these in her safe along with something else you should know about. Dad left you money, $50,000 in a trust that matured on your 25th birthday. Mom never told you. She's been collecting the interest. The account information is attached. I've removed her access. I'm sorry for everything. Maybe someday you'll forgive me, but I understand if you don't. Take care of yourself. You deserve the life you're building." $50,000. Money my father had left specifically for me, hidden for years. Money that could have been my freedom years ago. I should have been angry, but instead I felt oddly grateful. If I'd had that money at 25, still under Patricia's influence, she would have found a way to control it. Now at 28, I knew exactly what to do with it. I put a down payment on a small condo in the Arts District, walking distance from work. I invested some in my 401k, some in safe index funds Anna recommended. I donated $5,000 to a domestic violence shelter that helped people escape controlling families. And I kept $10,000 as an emergency fund, my insurance that I'd never be trapped again. The condo closing happened on a Thursday. Rosa Maria Marcus, Sarah Anna Carl, and even Diego and Carlos came to celebrate. We sat on the floor of my empty living room, drinking champagne from plastic cups, toasting to new beginnings and chosen families. Marcus had his arm around me. Rosa was planning where my furniture should go, and Maria was telling an embarrassing story about her first apartment. "A year ago," I said, getting everyone's attention, "I was sleeping on my mother's couch, counting my $40 allowance, believing I was a failure. 6 months ago, she abandoned me at a gas station to teach me a lesson about independence. Today, I own my own home, have a career I love, and am surrounded by people who actually care about me. Patricia was right about one thing I did need to learn: independence. I just learned it wasn't from her, but from her absence." We toasted to that, to absence that became presence to abandonment, that became abundance to cruelty, that accidentally created kindness. That night, alone in my new home, I sat on the floor and finally listened to the voicemails Patricia had left during her spiral. They ranged from rage to self-pity to revisionist history, where she was always the victim. In one, she sobbed about how ungrateful I was after she'd given up her life for me. In another, she coldly detailed all my failures and why I'd never survive without her. The last one, recorded just before her breakdown, was different. "You were just like your father," she said, her voice strange and distant. always wanting more, always looking beyond what was safe, what was known. I tried to save you from that. I tried to keep you close, keep you safe. But you're just like him, and look where that got him. Dead on a highway reaching for something beyond what he had. I won't watch you die the same way. If you won't let me save you, then you're already dead to me. I deleted them all. Patricia's fears, her twisted love, her need to control, they weren't my burden to carry anymore. 6 months later, a full year after the abandonment, I stood in my office, now the director of digital strategy, looking out at the Phoenix skyline. My team had grown to 8 people. My salary had increased to 6 figures. My condo was beautifully decorated with a mix of thrift store treasures and Rosa's art. Marcus and I were planning a vacation to Europe, my first international trip, using my passport for something other than Patricia's control. An email popped up from Jason. We'd started corresponding occasionally carefully, both of us trying to build something new from the wreckage of our family. Autumn Mom's being released next week. She's different medication and therapy have helped, but she still refuses to accept responsibility for the abandonment. She says she was protecting you from yourself. The doctors say she may never fully understand what she did wrong. I'm moving her to an assisted living facility near me in New York. She doesn't know I'm telling you this, but I wanted you to know. You're safe. She won't come looking for you. Also, I'm proud of who you've become. Dad would be too. I read it twice, then archived it. Patricia was Jason's responsibility, now his burden to bear or boundary to set. I had my own life, full and rich and completely mine. That weekend was Rosa's birthday. We celebrated at her bakery, now expanded to include the space next door. She'd hired 2 of Maria's cousins and a young woman who'd aged out of foster care, giving her the same chance she'd given me. The party was loud and warm, and everything family should be. "Speech!" someone called out, and Rosa stood on a chair, slightly tipsy from the tequila beaming at all of us. "A year and a half ago," she began, "Maria brought me a scared girl who'd been thrown away by her stupid mother. Today, that girl is a successful woman who owns her own home, runs a department at a big company, and is going to marry my honorary nephew Marcus, even if he hasn't proposed yet." Everyone laughed as Marcus blushed. "But more than that, she's family. Real family. The kind you choose, the kind you earn, the kind that stays not because of blood, but because of love. Autumn Mija. You came to us with nothing but a backpack and $47. But you brought something more valuable. You brought reminder that sometimes the worst things that happen to us are just preparing us for the best things. Salud." We toasted, and I found myself crying again, but happy tears this time. Carl hugged me with his gentle strength. Maria ruffled my hair and called me tough. Anna clinked her glass against mine with a wink. Sarah, who'd become as much friend as boss, squeezed my hand. And Marcus, sweet, patient Marcus, kissed my forehead and whispered that he loved me. A week later, I got an unexpected call. It was from Patricia's doctor in New York, with Jason's permission to contact me. "Your mother is asking to see you," he said carefully. "It's part of her therapy making amends. You're under no obligation to agree, and if you do, it would be in a controlled environment with supervision. But I wanted to extend the invitation." I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "No, thank you. I've already forgiven her for my own peace. I don't need to see her for closure. I've already closed that door." "I understand completely. For what it's worth, you made the right choice. Some relationships are too damaged to repair, and that's okay. Protecting yourself is not selfish, it's necessary." The call ended, and I felt nothing but relief. No guilt, no second thoughts, no what-ifs. Patricia had given me one gift by abandoning me at that gas station. She'd shown me exactly who she was and exactly who I didn't want to be. 2 years after the gas station, I stood in the same spot where Patricia had abandoned me, but nothing about me was the same. I'd driven here in my own car, a reliable Honda CR-V bought with my own money. I wore clothes I'd chosen, confidence I'd earned, and an engagement ring Marcus had given me 3 months ago during sunset on my apartment's rooftop. Carl was there, older now, but still working, still watching over travelers who might need help. He hugged me with tears in his eyes. "Your daddy would be so proud," he said, and then dropped the bombshell I'd never seen coming. "We were friends, you know. Jim and I served in the army together. When he married your mother, I tried to warn him she was troubled, but he loved her, thought he could help her. After he died, I promised myself I'd watch out for you if you ever needed it. I never thought it would be like this, but I'm glad I was here when it happened. You knew my father, knew him hell. I was his best man at the wedding. Your mother cut me out after the funeral, said I reminded her too much of him. But I kept my promise. I stayed at this nothing job at this nowhere gas station just in case. And then you walked out of that bathroom looking lost but not broken, and I knew Jim's daughter was going to be just fine. We talked for 2 hours about my father's stories I'd never heard, memories Patricia had hidden or destroyed. How he'd wanted to start his own business, how he'd planned to teach me to drive on my 16th birthday, how he'd worried about Patricia's controlling nature even then, but hoped having children would soften her. The accident, Carl said carefully. It wasn't his fault. Other driver was drunk, ran a red light. But your mother blamed him anyway, said he should have been home, not out chasing dreams. I think she held on to you so tight because she was terrified of losing you the same way. Not that it excuses what she did, but sometimes understanding helps with healing. Before I left, I gave Carl a check for $50,000. He tried to refuse, but I insisted. It's not charity. It's an investment. I want you to retire, travel, do something for yourself for once. You spent years at this gas station keeping a promise to my father. Let me keep a promise to you that his daughter turned out okay, and you can let go now. Carl cried, then really cried, and agreed to retire. 6 months later, I got a postcard from him from Hawaii, where he was learning to surf at 68 years old. The wedding was small, just our chosen family in Rosa's backyard. Maria walked me down the aisle. Carl stood as my father's representative, and Sarah was my maid of honor. Jason sent a card with a beautiful message and a generous check respecting my wish not to have him there. Patricia sent nothing, which was its own kind of gift. Marcus's vows made everyone cry. You survived a storm that should have destroyed you and emerged not hardened, but somehow softer, kinder, more capable of love than anyone I've ever met. You chose to build, rather than break, to trust, rather than hide, to love, rather than fear. I promise to be your safe harbor, but more importantly, I promise to sail beside you wherever your courage takes us. My vows were simpler. You saw me when I couldn't see myself. You believed in me when I didn't know how to believe. You loved me when I was still learning to love myself. I choose you not because I need you to survive, but because you make me want to thrive. I promise to build our life with the same determination I used to build my own brick by brick, day by day, with intention and joy. The reception was at Rosa's Bakery now, a Phoenix institution featured in food magazines and visited by celebrities. She'd made a cake that told our story in sugar, and fondant a gas station, a road leading to a city skyline, 2 figures holding hands at the journey's end. It was tacky and perfect, and so full of love I couldn't stop smiling. During the toasts, Sarah stood up slightly drunk and completely sincere. When Autumn walked into my office 3 years ago, she'd been abandoned by her mother literally the day before. She should have been destroyed, but instead she was determined. She built a department that's now the cornerstone of our company. But more than that, she built a life that proves success isn't about what you're given, but what you do with what you take for yourself. Patricia, if you ever see this, know that your abandonment was the best thing you ever did for your daughter. You tried to break her, but you set her free instead. As the night wound down, I found myself on the bakery's patio, with Maria looking at the stars barely visible through Phoenix's light pollution. You know what the funny thing is, I said. I'm grateful to her, not for the abuse or the control or the pain, but for that moment in the gas station, for being so cruel that I couldn't make excuses anymore, couldn't pretend it was love. She showed me exactly what I didn't want to be, and in running from that, I ran straight toward everything I was meant to become. Maria nodded understanding without judgment. Sometimes the worst gifts become the best ones. My mother's convent turned me into a businesswoman. Your mother's abandonment turned you into yourself. 3 months after the wedding, I got a call from Jason. Patricia had passed away suddenly, a heart attack in her sleep. He was handling the arrangements, wondering if I wanted to be involved. I thought about it carefully, then said yes, but on my terms. I would pay for half the funeral, attend the service, but I wouldn't speak or pretend grief I didn't feel. It was closure, not for her, but for me. The funeral was small, just Jason, a few people from her church and me. She looked smaller in death, less powerful, just a woman who'd let fear turn her love into a weapon. I didn't cry, but I did forgive, not for her, but for the girl I'd been, who'd spent so long thinking she wasn't enough. Jason and I talked afterward, really talked for the first time in years. He was in therapy working through his own issues with Patricia, understanding how he'd been both golden child and enabler. We agreed to try carefully to build something new, not as the siblings we'd been, but as the adults we'd become. A year later, I was back in that conference room where Sarah had first hired me, but now I was on the other side of the table. A young woman sat across from me, nervous and trying to hide it with a portfolio that showed promise despite obvious limitations. "Tell me," I said gently, "what brings you to Phoenix?" She looked up, surprised by the personal question, then seemed to decide on honesty. "I'm escaping my family. They don't believe in what I do, keep sabotaging my attempts to work. I've been sleeping in my car for 3 days, but I have skills, I have determination, and I just need one chance to prove it." I smiled, remembering another desperate woman in this same chair. "When can you start?" Her eyes widened. "You're hiring me just like that." Just like that. Sarah took a chance on me when I'd been abandoned at a gas station the day before. Now it's my turn to pay it forward. There's a corporate apartment available, your salary starts at $60,000, and if you need anything at all to get established, we'll figure it out. She started crying, and I handed her the same box of tissues Sarah had given me. The cycle continued, but this time it was a cycle of support, not suffering. That night, I told Marcus about the new hire over dinner in our condo, now filled with art and life and the laughter of friends who came by so often we'd given them keys. "You're building quite the collection of strays," he teased, referring to the 3 other women I'd hired who were escaping bad situations. "We're not strays," I corrected. "We're phoenixes. We burned down our old lives and rose from those ashes. And if I can help even one person avoid the years of suffering I went through, then Patricia's cruelty led to something good." "Speaking of rising," Marcus said, his tone changing, "I have news. My company is opening a European office. They want me to head it up. It would mean moving to Amsterdam for at least 2 years. My old self would have panicked, would have seen this as abandonment, as loss. But the woman I'd become saw opportunity. "When do we leave?" I asked. His face broke into a huge grin. "You'd come with me. But your job, your life here. My job can be done remotely. Sarah already confirmed that when she heard rumors about your offer. My life is wherever we build it together. And honestly, putting an ocean between me and my past sounds perfect." 6 months later, I stood in our new apartment in Amsterdam, video calling with my Phoenix family. Rosa had taken over mentoring my newest hire. Maria was expanding her trucking business to international shipping, partly to have an excuse to visit, and Sarah was already planning to open a European branch with me, heading digital operations. Jason sent an email with a photo attached. It was from Patricia's things, one I'd never seen before. My father was holding baby me, looking at me like I was a miracle, while Patricia stood to the side, already looking worried, already pulling away. But in that moment, captured forever, my father's love was evident and pure and proud. "Found this while closing out Mom's storage unit," Jason wrote. "Thought you should have it. Dad loved you completely. Mom loved you the only way she knew how, which wasn't enough and wasn't right, but was all she had. You broke the cycle. You chose love over fear. He would be so proud. I'm proud too. Your brother trying to do better, Jason." I printed the photo and framed it, placing it on my desk, next to a photo from the gas station that Carl had taken on a disposable camera the day he retired, me standing in the exact spot where I'd been abandoned, but smiling, victorious, free. And now, sitting in Amsterdam, building a life I'd chosen, with a man who chose me back, surrounded by chosen family across oceans, successful beyond my childhood dreams. I can say this, Patricia thought leaving me stranded would destroy me. She thought those 3 days would break me down, make me come crawling back grateful for whatever crumbs of conditional love she offered. Instead, she gave me the gift of rock bottom, which became the foundation for everything I built after. She showed me that the worst thing I could imagine surviving was survivable. She proved that strangers could be kinder than family, that chosen bonds could be stronger than blood, that sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one. Would I recommend abandonment as a path to freedom? Of course not. But I can say that sometimes the cruelest actions create the most beautiful outcomes, not because of the cruelty, but in spite of it. Sometimes the person trying to clip your wings accidentally shows you that you can fly. To anyone watching this who feels trapped by family, by circumstance, by someone else's version of who you should be, know this. Your moment at the gas station might not be literal, but it will come. The moment when you realize that the prison door has always been unlocked, you were just too scared to turn the handle. The moment when someone's cruelty becomes your catalyst. The moment when abandonment becomes freedom. When that moment comes, be ready. Have your backpack packed, metaphorically speaking. Know your worth even if no one else does. Trust that strangers can become family, that kindness exists in unexpected places, that you are stronger than any storm that tries to break you. Patricia thought she was teaching me a lesson about survival. She was right, just not in the way she intended. I learned that survival isn't about enduring abuse, it's about escaping it. It's not about accepting less, it's about demanding more. It's not about needing family, it's about choosing it. She left me at that gas station with $47 and a backpack. 3 days later, I had a job, an apartment, and a future. 3 years later, I have a career, a home, a husband, and a family that chose me as much as I chose them. That's my story. The story of how the worst thing that ever happened to me became the best thing. The story of how abandonment became abundance. The story of how a mother's cruelty accidentally created a daughter's courage. What would you do if someone abandoned you tomorrow? Would you break or would you build? Would you crawl back or would you climb forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had someone's cruelty accidentally set you free? Share your story. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of transformation and triumph. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that rock bottom can be a foundation, not just a grave. Remember that sometimes the people who try to break us are actually the ones who accidentally make us. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find your gas station moment, your phoenix rising, your Amsterdam adventure. May you discover that the family that chooses you is infinitely more valuable than the family that tries to control you. And may you always remember that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's a life well lived, fully chosen, and completely your own.